Good afternoon, everyone. I am Bea Depositilian, one of your reporters for today. We're going to explore Lesson 3 Assessment in Teaching Writing, a topic that's essential for helping students become better writers. Let's begin by understanding why assessment matters. Assessment plays a crucial role in teaching because it helps us determine how students have learned and what areas still need improvement. However, assessing writing can be quite challenging for teachers because students produce a wide variety of written work, and checking each piece thoroughly requires time, effort, and careful consideration. Writing assessment is often overlooked due to these difficulties. On top of that, when students receive papers filled with corrections or red marks, it can be discouraging and demotivating, diba? That's why it's important not just to assess the writing itself, but to see the students as writers, learners who still um, developing their skills. The ultimate goal of assessment should be to help them grow, not just to highlight their mistakes. Now let's talk about assessment in the context of teaching writing. First, there are two ways to look at writing: as a product and as a process. When we assess the product, we're looking at the final output, how well the student writes in terms of grammar, structure, coherence, and relevance. But we also need to assess the process, how the student develop their ideas, planned, draft, and revise. A good assessment consider both the product and the process. Second, we have formative versus summative evaluation. Formative is ongoing, like giving feedback on drafts or guiding students during activities. It helps students improve as they go. On the other hand, summative is more final, like giving a grade at the end of a unit or test. It measures what students have learned. And lastly, there's assessment versus testing. Assessment is broader. It includes observation, portfolios, and feedback. It focuses on helping students grow, while testing is more formal and limited, like multiple choice exams. While testing is not ideal for writing, testing is still useful for preparing students for standardized tests. So, effective writing assessment should balance all these elements to support both learning and performance. The goal is not just to grade students, but to support their learning, build their confidence, and help them become better writers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jacqueline Joyce Villa, the reporter for Purposes of Writing Assessment. We have established in the previous lesson that writing can be an effective tool for learning. Calfee and Miller reiterated the value of writing in their claim that writing reveals thinking with unusual clarity. The results are portraits that students construct in demonstrating their understanding of a topic, revealing their capacity to go beyond information given. So while writing can be an assessment in itself, it must also be assessed accordingly because of the following reasons as offered by Tompkins. So, in the previous lesson, we learned that writing is a powerful tool for learning. According to Calfee and Miller, writing allows students to express their thoughts with unusual clarity. So when students write, they are not just recalling or repeating information. They are showing how well they understand a topic. Writing gives us a glimpse into their thinking process. It's like a portrait they create that reflects their knowledge, insights, and ability to go beyond what was simply taught in class. Because of this, writing itself can already be a form of assessment. It shows how much a student has learned and how deeply they've engaged with the material. However, it's also important that writing is properly assessed. As Tompkins suggests, writing needs to be evaluated carefully, not just for grammar or structure, but also for the depth of thinking and understanding it reveals. And this ensures that we truly recognize and support a student growth in learning. These are the ways. So number one, we have reflect the student's growth as a writer. So this means writing assessments helps show how much a student has improved over time by comparing past and current writing. Teachers and students can see the progress in skills like grammar, organization, vocabulary, and overall writing style. Next is inform students and parents about students' achievement. This gives clear evidence of how well a student is doing. They help both students and parents understand the student's strengths, what they've learned, and what areas they still need improvement. It makes learning more transparent. Third one is guide writing instruction. Teacher use writing assessment to decide what to teach next. So if students are struggling with a certain aspect like organizing ideas or using proper punctuation, teachers can adjust their lessons to focus on those specific needs. Next is we have substantiate the grade level standard met by the learner. This means the assessment proves whether a student has met the expected writing skills for their grade level. It provides evidence that the student is performing at, above, or below the standards set by the curriculum. Last one we have is evaluate the effectiveness of the instructional program. So writing assessment also helps schools and teachers check if their teaching methods are working. If many students aren't improving, it may mean that the teaching strategies need to be changed or improved. So next is we have the example for the rubric in assessment a student research paper. So number one, we have the content of the paper. The research deals with an important issues in the field of studies, defines background and importance of research, and clearly states the objective and asks relevant questions. So there is evidence of research rigor and understanding of theories and key concepts drawn from relevant literature. The research utilizes the appropriate design for data collection and data analysis. So, content of the paper. This part of the rubric looks at the substance of the research paper. To get a high score, the paper should focus on an important or relevant issue in the field of study and clearly explain the background and why the research matters. Clearly state the research objective or what the paper is trying to achieve and ask meaningful, relevant questions. Show that the student understand the topic by referencing proper theories and key concepts from reliable sources. Also demonstrate research rigor, meaning the research is well thought out, detailed, and carefully conducted. Use the correct research design, meaning the right method for collecting and analyzing data. In short, this section checks if the student really knows what they're talking about and did proper research. Next is the writing style. The paper is well organized, free from grammar and spelling errors, and provides smooth transitions between sections. This evaluates how the paper is written. To score well, here, the paper should be well organized with ideas flowing logically from one section to the next. Use correct grammar and spelling. which helps make the paper professional and easy to read. Have smooth transitions between sections so the writing doesn't feel choppy or disconnected. Basically, this part checks if the student can communicate their ideas clearly and effectively. Third is format. This refers to the margin, spacing, indentation, correct referencing, and compliance to the required parts of the paper. This is about following proper formatting rules. It checks if the student used correct margins, spacing, and indentation, followed proper formatting for headings, titles, and structures, included all required parts of the paper. For example, abstract, introduction, methods, conclusion, and etc. Follow the required referencing style, for example, the APA and MLA. This section is about neatness and professionalism in the paper's appearance. Last one, we have the reference and citations. The paper cites credible and relevant sources, which includes books, journal articles, and other sources such as newspaper articles, magazine articles, and website. This evaluates the quality of sources used and how well they are cited. To get a good score, the paper should use credible and relevant sources such as academic books, peer-reviewed journal articles, and reliable websites. Properly cite all sources used in the text and include a reference list or bibliography. Avoid plagiarism by giving credit where it's due. This part ensures that the student did proper research and respected academic standard. Next, trait or analytic rubric comes in a matrix form with the criteria listed on the first column and levels of performance identified on the other columns. Each level of performance has a description and is assigned a point for the rater to choose. The strength of a trait rubric lies in the specificity of the feedback, thereby helpful for the learners in improving their works. The weight given for each criterion reflects the importance of each aspect. The drawback of a trait rubric lies in the time a teacher spends in preparing it. The following rubric is an example of this type. So, a trait or analytic rubric is a type of scoring tool that uses a matrix format to assess specific aspect of students' work. In this rubric, the criteria to be evaluated are listed in the first column, while the remaining columns describe different levels of performance for each criterion. Each level comes with a clear description and a corresponding point value, allowing the teacher to select the most accurate score based on the quality of the work. One of the main strengths of a trait rubric is that it provides very specific and detailed feedback. This helps students clearly understand which areas they did well in and which areas they need to improve, making it a useful tool for learning and self-improvement. Additionally, the weight or point value assigned to each criterion shows how important that particular aspect is in the overall assessment. However, the downside of this type of rubric is that it can be time-consuming for teachers to prepare, since each level of every criterion needs to be carefully defined. Despite this, the clarity and helpfulness of the feedback make trait rubrics a valuable assessment tool. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Afternoon everyone, I am Cristel Valmera and I will be reporting this topic. So, how to assess writing? Writing as a process is recursive and as such, assessment is best done in every stage of the process. To instill the basic strategy of plan, draft, revise, edit, teachers need to monitor their performance and give feedback before they before they give their graded assessment. So it is important that we as future teachers give feedback to our students as it helps them with improving their skills. They also need encouragement and motivation coming from you. So feedback can also help them identify their strength and weakness. It guides them on what learning areas they need to focus and enhance. So in correcting students' error, we need to make them understand the implications of their mistake and balance it with feedback on the positive achievement of the piece. Weigel, 2015, classified the types of feedback that we can offer to our student writers. They are: first is written comments. So this is the most commonly used feedback mechanism where teachers write their corrections either on the text using symbols for editing or indicate comments on the margins of the student's paper. So in written feedback, it helps with correcting on-the-spot errors and it allows a detailed explanation of what was done well and what needs improvement. So learners can refer back to the comment reinforcing learning or expectations. So one downside of this is it takes a lot of time the manually correcting students' work and can be intimidating for them. So next is individual conference. So this type of feedback is useful for process writing where teachers have to assist students writers in every stage of the writing process. So individual conference helps individual address specific strength and areas for growth, and it also facilitates setting realistic goals tailored to the individual's needs. Through one-on-one discussion, it helps with focusing on key points that was covered and helps individuals to grow and reflect. So next is recorded feedback. So this is an alternative conferencing, especially if the class is big and individual conferencing will not be viable. So recorded feedback helps with aiding memory and understanding. It is like in an actual classroom where you give instruction and the students can easily follow it without hardship. And it is also quicker to give detailed feedback verbally than to write it, which is student might not understand. So one downside of this is it is not applicable to those places with no technology or lack of availability. So other assessment strategies that may work in the writing classroom would include observation, collecting of writing samples, keeping records, and writing checklists. So first is observation. So observation can be used in monitoring the learner's habits, problems in executing the process, interaction with peers during collaborative or peer writing activities. So observation can help us teachers with monitoring our students' behavior and attitudes. And it can help us learners to clearly understand what our students are like, how they write, how they interact, and etc. It helps us teachers identify what type of learning strategy are we going to apply to fit our students' learning needs. So next is collection of writing samples. Can be done by the teacher or the students themselves. Posting writing examples on the wall is affirming for the learners. So one example of this is portfolios. So portfolios helps students reflect on our progress by reading or recalling back our past projects. So it helps us find errors and areas for improvement in our writing. So next is anecdotal records. So note down the teacher's comments on what they have observed or read from the students' output as evidence of learning. So anecdotal records serves as guides for us students, as it helps us recall what our teachers suggest for our outputs and projects. So next is checklist for the students and teachers to assess if the outputs have responded to given prompts or defined objectives. So, checklist helps us teachers and students to identify what areas or goals have been achieved and what areas need to be met. So, next is in the context of the Philippine classroom, where teachers handle big classes with learners coming from diverse backgrounds and levels of competence, they need to employ strategies that could lighten the arduous task of assessing writing. Some of these are focus on specific aspect or competence, Harmer 1998. This strategy that adheres to the principle of less is more requires the teachers to orient the students on the target competencies that the writing program or activity aims to achieve. So, since it is impossible to focus with many areas of fluency, we must focus on every aspect one at a time, starting with what part does the students have a hard time with, and so that one by one, the students can really master and understand those topics. So, next is agree on the list of written symbols. Harmer 1998. As the teachers focus on the topic of aspect of competency, they also can tell the students the codes used in correcting errors. So these codes are SP for spelling error, WO for error in word order, P for punctuation error or problem, T tense of the verb, WW wrong word or the quotation mark for missing word, the open and close parenthesis for incorrect word, and the tilde for error in combining two words into one, and slash for signal for run-on sentence. So that is all for my part. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Apolmi Tulibas, and I am one of the assigned reporter for Lesson 3, Assessment in Teaching Writing. As you can see, we have proofreading marks. So what are proofreading marks? Proofreading marks are special symbols that we use to correct or improve writing. Instead of writing long notes, we use simple marks to show errors and how to fix them. Why are they important for us as students? They are crucial because they help make our writing clear, correct, and easy to read. They also help us learn from our mistakes and improve how we use grammar, punctuation, and spelling. These marks can help us improve our writing by fixing grammar errors, clarifying sentences, correcting spelling, and punctuation. While using these proofreading symbols is a great way to become better at writing and spotting errors in our work. This is the continuation of proofreading marks table. It is already included here what are the meanings of every marks and how to correctly use them. When you learn these marks, you begin to notice errors in your own writing. You become more careful with your grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure. And it will help us improve our English skills over time. Next, we have peer correction and feedbacking. This strategy is not only time efficient but promotive as well of the self-regulation in writing. What is self-regulation? According to Zimmerman and Wissenberg, it's about using your own thoughts, feelings, and actions to achieve your writing goals. So, when you write, you're not just following instructions, you're actively thinking about how to make your writing better, how to express your ideas more clearly, and how to improve your overall work. You become more responsible for your own learning as a student. How does peer feedback help with this? When we read and respond to each other's work, we become more aware of what makes writing effective. We learn from the strengths and mistakes of others, and we begin to notice those things in our own work. This process helps us write not just because we have to, but because we learn through it. In short, peer correction and feedbacking doesn't just lessen the teacher's work, it helps us, the learners, develop our writing skills more deeply. We learn to write better, and at the same time, we learn how to learn through writing. On the other hand, according to Clark 2010, the purpose of peer correction is not to give grades or marks to our classmates' work. That is still the teacher's job. So what is our rule? As students, we need to be oriented or guided by what to look for in our classmates' writing. That means we don't just say na it is good kanindot siya paminawon or okay na siya. Instead, if maghatag-tag feedback, it should be fair and not biased if she's your close friend. Mahadlo ka i-correct siya basta ma-offend if ever sa mong comment. Dapat honest ta kay para man sa ilang growth. We have to remember peer correction works best when it's honest, respectful, and focused on improvement, not just kindness. It's all about helping each other grow as a student or writer in the future. Lastly, utilize technology. We all know writing isn't always easy, but the good news is that we don't have to do it alone. We now have software and technologies at our disposal that can greatly improve the quality of our work. Let's talk about word processors such as Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Editing features are already built into them. They can highlight grammatical errors, offer suggestions for improved word choice, and help us correct sentence structure. Before submitting our work, these tools allow us to identify our mistakes more easily. Then, we have more advanced tools like Turnitin and Grammarly. Some schools have access to them. Turnitin is great because it can check if any part of your writing has been copied or plagiarized. That's super important in academic writing. Grammarly, on the other hand, checks for grammar, spelling, tone, and clarity, and it provides immediate feedback that's easy to understand. We should use these technologies as learning tools, not just shortcuts. They are not intended to do all the thinking for us. They are here to guide us and help us understand what we need to be learned as learners or to improve. That's all for my part. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Hugh Danilo III, and today we're going to discuss an important aspect of teaching writing, and it is knowing when and how to assess students' written outputs. Now, this is vital not only for improving student performance, but also for ensuring our feedback is timely and meaningful. So, the first question that we need to answer is, when do we assess writing? So, writing assessments are most effective when they're paired with instruction rather than done in bulk at the end. Timely feedback helps students reflect, ask questions, and apply suggestions, while diagnostic tests are helpful at the start. Formative assessments are truly what guides students' progress during learning. So, how to grade written outputs? So, grading written outputs depends on what you're assessing. Now, for linguistic competence, scores work. But if you're checking how well students engage in the writing process or complete a writing task, rubrics are the way to go. Rubrics offer clear performance indicators and promote transparency. So according to Calfee and Miller, there are 6 key criteria for evaluating writing. These include the student's command of ideas, logical organization, unique voice, fluency in sentence structure, mastery of conventions, and the overall presentation. So these elements form the backbone of effective writing assessment. So for the types of rubrics, actually there are 2 main types of rubrics. The first one is holistic and trait based. So a holistic rubric gives one overall score, great for speed but it lacks detail. Trait rubrics break writing into criteria, giving more specific feedback, and they take more time to create but are better for student learning. So that's about it for my report. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.
So here's the rubric in evaluating the research output of the students. First, we have 5. This item is excellently evident in the whole paper. This indicates the highest level of compliance. This item evaluated is clearly and effectively present in all sections or chapters of the paper. It's not just there, but it's done well and consistently integrated. The next one is 4. This item is evident, but it's not consistent in all the chapters of the paper. This suggests that the item is present in the paper. It's not implementation or visibility varies across different chapters. Some parts of the paper demonstrate it well, while others might be weaker or even lacking. The third one is 3. There is about 60% compliance of this item. This provides a more quantitative feel to the evaluation. It implies that the item is present and addressed in roughly 60% of the relevant sections of the paper. There are noticeable gaps or areas where it's missing or not adequately addressed. Next is 2. There is about 30% compliance of this item. This indicates a significant lower level of compliance. This item is only evident in small portion, around 30% of the paper. This suggests a substantial lack of attention to our integration of the evaluated aspect. The last one is 1. There is an attempt to comply with the item but is seriously flawed. This rating suggests that the researchers tried to address this item, but their attempt was significantly inadequate or contained major errors. While there might be some indication of the item, it's not implemented effectively or correctly. So these scales allows researchers or evaluators to assess the degree which is a specific element or criterion is present, consistent, and well executed within a research paper. The higher the number, the better the integration and implementation of the item. Next is the example of the rating scale of the evaluating the research output of the students.